Hey folks, welcome to the show. If you don't know this, but this is take 3 for this video that is keeping me up. You can see the clock on the bottom right. It is unfortunately accurate. Happy 420 Day to those who celebrate for whichever reason, because there's a few. But I've been kind of going back and forth on my picks. Now, if you watched my previews, you will get a sense into how I think and my analysis. I invite you to watch those videos as well, as I think they were very good and very informative, or great white noise. And you can see this thought process behind my picks. But I will talk about my thoughts as I go through these picks. The reason this is the third take is I keep changing my mind about one series. And I'll get to that series. But the Western Conference, once I got it down, I went through pretty quick. Now first is Dallas and Vegas. This one is tough because I like both teams quite a bit. Those who know me know I am a bit of a fan for Vegas, not as much as the Oilers, but I like them quite a bit. And I love their attitude for the playoffs. I think their attitude for the playoffs is perfect. And could really lead them to a repeat as champions. I have no doubt that they can do it. But I am going to pick the Dallas Stars. I think if there's a round that Vegas loses, it has to be the first round, because they have had so many injuries this year that they haven't had a lot of chemistry to really get things working together lately, that it might throw them off only a little bit. They'll still be a very dangerous team, but Dallas and Vegas need every little edge they need to beat out the other. And I think that edge might do in Vegas, as well as Jake Ottinger just being amazing in the last 2 weeks, or even more so. Granted, we all know what Vegas' goalies can do. I'm a big fan of both Adin Hill and Logan Thompson. We know what Adin Hill can do in the playoffs as well, but can he do that again? Can he recover his form and all that kind of stuff? We don't know, but we know Jake Ottinger has, so Dallas is my pick. Now, Colorado, Winnipeg. If you had asked me at any point during this season and in the offseason last year who I think would win in a 7-game series between the Jets and the Avs, I would tell you the Avs. Except until I did the preview video, when I put all the stats together, looked at the season series, I said Winnipeg. I said Winnipeg is going to win it. I said the Jets. I want to make clear. Actually, let me finish talking about why I said the Jets. Because, one, they've been the better team. Colorado absolutely has a star power in their favor. There are some stars on the Jets, but Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar, those guys can elevate the Jets, or can elevate the Avs over the Jets. But the thing that fuels the Jets, pun intended, is their goaltending. Connor Hellebuyck. As an Oilers fan, I know exactly what Connor Hellebuyck can do again in the first round. I saw every one of those saves he made to sweep the Oilers. And I say this for the 4th time on this channel. He swept the Oilers. The Jets were good. It's just Connor Hellebuyck swept the Oilers. I don't think the Jets are going to sweep the Avs. That's not what I'm saying. But the Jets did sweep the Avs in the season series, which doesn't mean everything. But just 2 weeks ago, the Jets beat the Avs 7-0. The Avs have shown quite a few weaknesses lately, and maybe too many for this ruthless playoff bracket in a league where there's a ton of parity. So with Georgiev not performing super well, Noonan being very unproven, and with the Jets just being a deeper team and better defensively, I have to pick the Jets. Now's a good time to say it, because it's Vancouver and Nashville. I said in my previews, I reserve the right to change my predictions from when I make those videos and publish them to making the bracket video. And I did with Vancouver and Nashville. I changed my prediction from Vancouver to Nashville. The reason I chose Vancouver is because, well, they're the better one. I felt they were the better team. But I also know that when and I mentioned this in those previews, when you're looking at just the two teams together, 95% of the time you're going to choose the higher seed team, or maybe 90% of the time, as winning. But when you look at it as a bracket and you look at the recent history in pretty much any sport, you know that the higher seed team does not win 90-95% of the time. It's probably closer to 70. I'm sure it's over half, but it's not close to 90. I would say 75% of the time is too high in recent history. So I figured, okay, well, I should at least have 2 teams to choose as upsetting the other ones. And for a lot of people, the Canucks are an upset. The Canucks Nashville series is an upset candidate, but not for the I think the same way, but not for the reason everyone else is saying. So I will put down Nashville. But a lot of people say, well, it's because the playoffs don't. That Vancouver doesn't have a lot of playoff history in the last 5 years, and they're right. But Nashville doesn't have a lot of playoff success in the last 5 years. Nashville has been in the playoffs 4 times to Vancouver's 1 in the last 5, but Vancouver has won the qualifying round and a round 1 in their 1 appearance in the playoffs in the last 5 years, whereas Nashville has never moved past round 1 in their 4 times in the last 5 years they've been in the playoffs. And in fact, they lost in the qualifying round as well. So I wouldn't say that's means a lot in terms for Nashville. What does is, 1, goaltending. Now, Demko has had a better season than Saros. That is true. But it's about what kind of form you're going to be in. And I have reasons to question Thatcher Demko's form when I really don't have reason to question UC Saros' form. In terms of UC Saros, he's very used to making well over 30 saves a game, whereas Vancouver doesn't get 30 shots a game this season. So whatever kind of workload Vancouver puts on UC Saros, he should handle. That said, Vancouver is very good at converting wherever they're at and getting high quality chances. So it's not going to be easy for Saros, obviously. But that is one error. And for Demko, well, he's coming off of an injury, and it's hard for goalies to recover form after an injury, their peak form that they've been in. Example is Adin Hill. Hill was in his peak form in the playoffs, obviously, and he was able to keep it through the offseason and begin the regular season in that peak form, which is hard to do. He had a .931 save percentage in over 10 games played until he went down with injury that kept him out for, I think, a couple months. And since coming back, well, he's had some good games. He's been a good goalie since coming back. He just hasn't been in peak form. He hasn't looked like what he once was. It's very hard for a goalie to be in peak form at all times. And we're not sure if Demko is going to be in peak form when he returns, and he will probably be needed to, because Nashville may not have the star power that Vancouver has. They still have stars on that team, and Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi. So that's why I went with Nashville. Not because Vancouver lacks playoff success. Nashville does too. It's because of those reasons. I felt Nashville was hotter coming in. Vancouver's been rather mediocre lately. Nashville has been one of the hottest teams lately. So I chose Nashville. Now the Oilers and the Kings. And before you say, well, you're just going to choose the Oilers because you're an Oilers fan. No. It is a small part of why I am choosing the Oilers, yes. But it's also because I look at all the stats and the numbers and, okay, well, the Oilers have been the much better team than the Kings. In the last 2 years, the Oilers have beaten the Kings a lot, but I wouldn't say they've ever had the Kings' number, because the Kings usually keep it close. Even though the Oilers won 3 of the 4 games in this regular season, none of those games were big blowups. So the Kings, in their lone win, did win 4-0 over the Oilers. So then there's the thing about third's the time and charm, because if you look at playoff history, in fact, the Oilers' own playoff history, you can see in the 90s, the Stars and the Oilers played against each other for quite a few years in a row. And the Stars won those series quite a few years in a row until the Oilers finally had enough and won the series. And that could happen with the Kings. But I see no reason to see that happening. In fact, I think the Oilers actually have the Kings' number by now. that number being 131, because that has been the story of success for the Kings in the last few months. But it is a style of hockey that the Oilers have figured out in the one game. Now you can say, well, that was just one game. Yeah, you're right, but it looked convincing to me. Anyways, so in how many games do I think these teams are going to win? I think Dallas would have to take a full 7 against Vegas. Winnipeg, I think will win 5. Colorado's star power is too much to look over for Winnipeg to sweep Colorado. But if Connor Hellebuyck could sweep the Oilers with the team he had back then, he could sweep the Avs with the team he has now. Not a sweep, because McKinnon's too good. So is Makar and Ranton. You know what I meant. Vancouver and Nashville, I think, will go the distance to 7 games. I want to say 6. I lied. 6. Oilers, in my preview, I said 5 games. But I also know that once in a while you got to choose a sweep. Sweeps happen. As a fan entering this series, I don't expect the Oilers to sweep the Kings. I don't. But for me, I'm kind of deciding between 4 and 5 games. I feel like the Oilers are more likely to win in 4 than 5. But I also don't expect to sweep at the same time. I think if the Kings get a win, they're probably going to get a second one too. I don't know. Heck, maybe after all this, Kings are going to win in 4. And if that happens, I probably won't be on Instagram. I will make a video about it. I will do an honest review. It just might come out in 2026 when I recover. Because, again, the Kings can win. I don't want to enter this cocky, but I am going to say the Oilers are going to sweep. Because I feel the need to choose a sweep. And I feel like this is the best choice. Not because I'm an Oilers fan. Eastern Conference. Now, Florida and Tampa Bay have caused me a lot of headache. And in the last hour, I have convinced myself of Tampa Bay going on a magical run. Yes, that is foreboding. Foreshadowing is the word. I talked about it in my preview. Oh yes, Florida's a better team, and Florida is the smarter option. And if I am proven to be super wrong about this, let's just pretend that I'm tired and that's my excuse. It really isn't, but we can pretend it is. But of the very few weaknesses Florida has, Tampa can exploit those. Florida's biggest weakness is they take a lot of penalties. Guess what Tampa Bay's greatest strength is? The power play. So, the other thing that's very important for Tampa Bay winning is Vasilevsky. Or whichever goal he's playing, which is almost certainly Vasilevsky. Because if Vasilevsky isn't good enough, Florida will overpower Tampa Bay. Whatever Tampa Bay can get past Florida's amazing defense, Bobrovsky will stop. It's a matter of Vasilevsky being in form, which we know he can do. Regardless of what regular season he has, we know more often than not, way more often than not, he will be at peak form, and he will be very capable of making 35 saves in a game, which I think he would be needed to do against Florida. So I think Vasilevsky and Kucherov will carry Tampa Bay over the Panthers in a very fun and very exciting Battle of Florida game. I'm not telling you to pick Tampa. If I'm telling you to pick a smart choice, I'm telling you to pick the Florida Panthers. It's just I gave myself a minimum of 2 sweeps, or not sweeps, upsets, and this is the second upset that I'm choosing, which does tell you who I'm picking for the other 3, but I think you could have guessed those. I'm sorry, Florida. You are absolutely right to be mad at me or laugh at me if the Panthers win, because I recognize they are the smarter choice. Anyways, Bruins, Leafs. This should be a good series. As I said in the Boston Leafs preview video, I really don't care who wins between the two. I just want something really funny. I know there's storylines about Toronto beating their boogeyman, because that's what the B stands for on the Bruins logo, not Boston or Bruins. It means boogeyman, if you ask a Leafs fan. But there's also the storyline of this being Boston's 100th season and the last season, their longtime commentator, controversial commentator Jack Edwards is announcing how fitting it would be to beat Toronto in the series. And that's what I think is going to happen. Toronto is statistically the better team, but Boston has found ways to win, namely because of goaltending, a factor that they have over the Leafs quite notably. Another factor they have is mental fortitude. I have no reason to look at Toronto's history and say, okay, yeah, these guys have the mentality to win a Stanley Cup. Not really. And I don't really blame Matthews or Marner. They've never really had a Stanley Cup champion be in the room with them and for a long time that I can think of, like an actual guy who's a leader during a cup run and be there and to help them. They had Marlowe and Thornton, who were great players, but they were not playoff winners. They were very familiar with losing the playoffs. They did make the finals once, but they didn't win. Whereas Boston, well, they have Brad Marchand, who's, as much as I would love to make fun of him, he's carrying the legacy of Patrice Bergeron and Zdeno Chara, who have instituted one of the most revered and respected locker rooms in the National Hockey League. So if Boston makes a mistake or has a bad game or a bad period, they have the mental ability to rally. If Toronto has a bad period or a bad game, I have no reason to think they would. I think it would take a freak accident or crazy thing to happen, but this is the NHL playoffs. Crazy things do happen quite a bit. I will say, if Toronto does beat Boston, I think it would give them enough oomph to get over, actually really give Florida or Tampa, whoever meets them in the second round, a run for their money. In fact, if it comes down to between Tampa and Toronto in the second round, I would choose Toronto, sitting right now. If that actually happens, I will do a separate preview and a separate prediction, because what happens in the first round will affect what I think. But again, I'm just saying that now, before any of the games happen. If Toronto meets Florida in the second round, again, I would say Florida would beat Toronto again. But for now, I'm picking Boston. Now, these two picks aren't super controversial. Most people are picking the Rangers and the Hurricanes, and I'm not going to be a contrarian. I'm sorry. The Capitals and the Islanders are viewed, in a lot of people's opinion, as the two weakest teams in the Eastern Conference. Not just the Eastern Conference, but the league of playoff teams, I mean. I do want to make note that the Capitals and Islanders are still playoff teams. They still made it to the playoffs. Congratulations to them. And they still have a chance to upset. Upsets do happen. Miracles do happen. They absolutely can. The Rangers and Hurricanes should both take their opponents seriously. Excuse me, but if they do, they will win. The Capitals enter the playoffs with one of the worst goal differentials we've ever seen of a playoff team. They are do and die by their goalie, who has been very good, and Charlie Lindgren. I mean, Darcy Kemper can be very good, but the Rangers also have a very good goaltending duo. And in addition to a very good goaltending duo in Shesterkin and Quick, they have a lot of star power, more star power. They have more depth scoring, and they have a better defense. As for the Islanders, they have a history of, once they get into the playoffs, which has been a struggle for them, they are able at winning a lot. Fortunately, they're against the Hurricanes, who are also very able at winning a lot. In fact, in also a very similar manner of a low-scoring affair. So I had to pick the overseeds on those two series. So if Tampa wins and beats Florida, I think that'll take 7 games. Boston, Toronto, it'll take 7 games. Of course, it'll go to 7 games. Rangers and Caps, I do think, is a Rangers picking the Rangers over the Caps has some sweep candidacy, but I'm going to say it takes 5 games. 5. And Carolina, the Islanders, I'm going to say 5 games. Yeah. Now, the website isn't going to ask me for how many games it's going to take for these other rounds, but I will still say my opinion. When it comes to Dallas and Winnipeg, I do think Dallas will overpower Winnipeg, but I think it would take 6 games. I think they're pretty good, pretty tight, and both star American goalies will keep it close. Both have a lot of depth scoring, but the Stars just have more star power. Pun actually not intended, but I'm happy it was there. Nashville and Edmonton. I think Nashville won the most recent battle. I think the playoffs, or the series, was in favor of the Predators this year in the regular season, 2-1. But generally, in the last few years, the Oilers have dominated the Predators. They know how to score on Saros. They know how to break goalies. And nobody knows how to break Nashville more than the mayor of the town himself, Leon Draisaitl. And yes, I'm an Oilers fan. It is a small portion of me choosing them, but honestly, I think the Oilers would beat Nashville. I think it'll take... I think Saros will take a game. I think the Predators would absolutely win one of the first 2 games, which would be in Edmonton. Actually, that might be tough because Oilers are one of the best teams at home. But I'm not going to say the Oilers are going to sweep because I've already said they're going to sweep the Kings, and I don't want to come off as a cocky fan saying, oh, they're going to sweep round 2 too. I think Saros will steal a game. But I also think once the Oilers break Saros, that's kind of it. We saw what the Oilers did to Markstrom. I think the Oilers are going to do the same thing to the Kings goaltending tandem. It's just kind of how the Oilers roll, baby. The important thing for Predators and Kings to do is to break Skinner, which we know can happen from last year. But Skinner is better than he was last year. He has more emotional maturity last year, but I don't think Nashville or the Kings have enough scorers to really break Skinner enough. So it'll be up to the Stars to break Skinner, which I think they could. But we'll get to that. Between Tampa and Boston, I decided Tampa. I think at this point, if Tampa gets to the second round, it means Vasilevsky is doing amazing, which means an amazing Vasilevsky will match and probably exceed Ullmark or Swayman, which takes out Boston's biggest strength. Because I don't think, as great as Pastrnak is, I don't think he's going to match Kucherov. So Tampa wins that series. I think that one would take 5 games. Rangers and Carolina, I think, would be an amazing series. Part of me wanted to choose the Rangers. The reason I'm kind of being a hater on the Hurricanes is out of fear. I've loved their team and a lot of their makeup. I love Rod Brindamore. I love their defense. I'm a big Jacob Slavin fan. But Carolina's going to win it. The one weakness that they've had in the last few years, outside of not being a physical team, is that they don't have a lot of star power with them, and the Rangers do. But oh look, Jake Gensel is doing incredible in North Carolina as a member of the Hurricanes, and Sebastian Aho is a star. He just hasn't had an opportunity to unleash his offensive prowess. Andrei Svechnikov is still there too, so yeah, I will say Carolina. Now, I'm going to start in the East. The reason I'm redoing this video is because initially I had Carolina going to the finals. And by saying that, you can guess that, oh, you're going to pick the Lightning. Yes, I am going to pick the Lightning. I will say I think Carolina wins some conference games this time. I think it would go to 7 games. But my criticism of the Hurricanes is that they don't seem to handle physicality very well. They handle it well enough to win a lot, but it wears down on them. I think that's one of the reasons that they've been unable to make it far in the playoffs, is that by round 3 they're tired by all the hits that they've taken, and they just don't have it in them in the conference finals. This time around, with the star power they have, I think they would take Tampa to 7 games. But I think at this point, again, if Tampa is in the conference finals, it means Vasilevsky is doing amazing and is very capable of taking on the 35, 38 shots Carolina's going to throw at him. And Kucherov and his forwards are hot enough to be able to score on the chances that they get. Additionally, I'd imagine Sergachev would be back at this point. would be huge for Tampa's ability to not let Carolina get 40 shots a game. Just 38. Which could be a real difference maker. So I'm going to say Tampa. Now Dallas and Edmonton. At this point, the reason I also mention the games is because the more games you play, it can wear you down. Sometimes it can help you too, but it can wear you down. So at this point I said Dallas would need 7 games against Vegas. And then I don't remember if I said 5 or 6 games against Winnipeg, but either way that's 12 to 13 games. Whereas for the Oilers and against the Predators and Kings, that's a combined 9 games, which is less. You could say, okay, well, the Oilers will be out of the groove. It's possible. Or they could be over cocky. It's possible. Those can have happened. But the Oilers have looked very mature this year. In their winning streak, they never looked cocky. They always looked just knowing they're going to win, but not in a cocky way. They just know they're going to win, and they do win. And it's not because they think they're better. They just know how. And so I'm going to pick the Oilers. And there is a reason behind this. Not because I'm an Oilers fan, though is a small part of it. Because I at the beginning of the year, I posted on Instagram that I think the Oilers are going to win the Stanley Cup Final. I don't remember who I said would be their... I want to look it up. Because I remember it was either Hurricanes or the Lightning. And I want to match that because I think whoever wins, I think I have to stick with my picks. I think it's important to... Now, if I had picked the Oilers to win the Cup and the Oilers missed the playoffs, I would think it's fair for me to get a redo. But the Oilers didn't miss the playoffs. The Kings didn't miss the playoffs. I'm just looking it up to see who I picked at the beginning of the year. So I believe then I should stick with my picks. Where is it? Where is it, Isaac? Here it is. No, that's football. That's also football. Here it is. I had Tampa beating the Oilers in my prediction. Really? Oh, that was 2022. Where did my Oilers prediction go? Okay, ignore all of that then. But I hope you enjoyed the Halo music there. I could have sworn I did my predictions and I don't know where they went. That's weird. Maybe I have them in my notes. I am going to still talk so that you don't have to be worried, and I don't know how to edit enough to not do this. So I'm going to talk about the Oilers because, like I said, I think it's important to stick to your guns. If I was ignoring my prediction from the preseason, I would pick the Stars. I would. I get it. They're the better team. They have better goaltending. Their forwards and offense isn't as good as the Oilers, but it's very close. Their defense is better than the Oilers. Not as much better as fans would like to think, but it is better than the Oilers' defense. I do think both of these teams are going to be on a huge high at the conference finals, and I think the Oilers handle that very well, especially with their home crowd. It's been a testament to their ability to win at home. So I think both teams would probably, whoever wins, it would take 6 games. And I am going to pick the Oilers. The reason that I haven't picked them yet is because the website is going to be dumb and it's going to lock me into it. It's been giving me problems as well. Another reason I've been up late. So let me just double check with my preseason predictions, and if I can't find it, we'll just go with Tampa Bay because that's been the course of the whole video. But I'm starting to realize I might have chosen Edmonton and Carolina rematch, which, yeah, not okay. I found it. What was my original predictions? I did have Tampa Bay and Edmonton. This whole thing didn't matter. Well, it did because you got some information. So it was Tampa Bay and Edmonton. I originally had it in 6 games, and I had Tampa Bay as a wild card. Holy cow! I should post this. Did I not post this? That would be a shame. I mean, there are some things in here that were definitely wrong. Like I had Buffalo in the playoffs. I had Buffalo beating the Hurricanes in the first round. Yeah. Anyways, so yes, we are going to go with Tampa Bay. We are going to go with the Oilers. I think the Oilers will beat Dallas in 7 games. And then Edmonton, Tampa, my prediction had them at 6 games, and I think it'll take 6 games. It would be a very good series. If you think if it's coming down to the Oilers and Lightning, you pick Lightning. I totally understand that. Or Lightning have been here before. Oilers haven't. But at the same time, the Oilers are the more efficient team. They are the hotter team. The only thing the Lightning really have is Vasilevsky. In terms of over the Oilers, as an obvious advantage. And I've talked about how the Oilers are good at showing goalies their bad side. They did that to Markstrom in the playoffs a couple of years ago. I think they'll do that to the Kings goalie tandem. I think they'll do it to Saros. I think Saros will recover fine. I think they'll do it to Ottinger, and I think I'll do it to Vasilevsky. Because all those goalies the Oilers face in this hypothetical run have had some bad moments this year. None of them have had elite moments or have been elite all year when they're healthy, like Hellebuyck or Demko. And I think the Oilers can handle these guys. They can see their weaknesses and exploit them. That's been the Oilers' best ability in the last few years. They don't just score because they're so talented. They score because they know how to dissect the goalie and embarrass them. They also know how to dissect their own goalie and embarrass them too. Anything. I hope you enjoyed this video because it is very late and I had a lot of fun with it. If you disagreed, you probably did. That's okay. You can still like the video and disagree with it. Feel free to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm super grateful for you watching this video. I'm so grateful for the growth I've had in the last few weeks. It's been a huge morale boost for me and it means a ton to me. So thank you so much for that. I really mean that. And I haven't even selected the Oilers. And then they're going to ask me for goals. In the middle of me saying thank you to everybody. How rude. It's a little scatterbrained of me too. I think there'll be lots of goals. I think 6 games. 8 goals per game maybe. That's 48 goals. Let's go a bit less than that. Let's say 45. Yeah. I have read them. In the future. I have read them in the past too. Plus they've changed it recently. Anyways, thank you so much. Ignore that burp if you heard it. If you didn't hear it, pretend I didn't say it. That it happened. That is Halo music in the background. I don't remember if I mentioned it because this is like take 3 or 4. So I know I mentioned it a couple times in these takes. I really hope you enjoy the playoffs. Even if your team loses, it is possible to still enjoy it. I will enjoy the playoffs as long as the Oilers get out of the first round because, especially if it gets to the conference final, I'll be okay if the Oilers lose in the conference final. I would be very concerned if they lose to the Kings, be disappointed if they lose to the Canucks or the Predators, but understanding. But I'd be okay if they lost to the Stars. Stars are a great team. So if I were to make a really smart pick, I'd probably choose Dallas and Florida with Stars winning the Cup. I'm going to say Stars winning the Cup. That would be my prediction if I was ignoring my preseason prediction. But I believe in sticking to your guns. And I got big guns that are worth sticking to. So, yeah, I don't know if you can see them as a tiny camera. But they're there. They're under some fat, but they're there. Thank you again. That's enough for me. I've rambled on too much, but maybe you have enjoyed all the white noise or informational stuff or chatter, so please leave a like. In addition to your thoughts below in the comments, subscribe and turn on notifications. Huge help to me. And whether you do that or not, thanks for being here. Enjoy the rest of wherever you're at in your day. I'll see you whenever I see you next.